3 weeks of heated arguments followed the government's arrival at the Aurora Research Institute. General Stone and Director Mitchell had commandeered half of the facility, bringing in their own scientists and security teams. The laboratory that had once been Marcus's quiet research space now bustled with military personnel and intelligence analysts working around the clock. Marcus stood in the main conference room, facing a wall of screens that showed the progress of multiple government projects. They had taken Einstein's drawings and turned them into detailed technical specifications for both the enhancement technology and the weapons needed to fight the invaders. The speed of their work was impressive, but Marcus worried about the direction they were taking. "We cannot proceed with mandatory enhancement protocols," Marcus argued for what felt like the 100th time. Einstein has shown us repeatedly that forced transformation leads to psychological instability and loss of essential human characteristics. General Stone pulled up a tactical analysis on the main screen. "Dr. Hayes, our models show that voluntary enhancement will only reach 15% of the population in the time we have available. That's not enough people to mount an effective defense against the invasion." Lisa had been working with the government scientists to decode more of Einstein's technical diagrams. "The creature has given us detailed information about optimal enhancement procedures," she reported, "but he's also emphasized that the process requires willing participants. To achieve stable results, the transformed mouse sat in his new larger enclosure in the center of the room." Einstein had been cooperative with the government researchers, providing additional drawings and even allowing more extensive biological samples to be taken. However, the creature became visibly agitated whenever the discussion turned to forced enhancement. Ryan presented his latest analysis of the timeline calculations. "Our deep space monitoring stations will detect the invasion fleet in 16 months and 2 weeks, he announced. "That gives us approximately 4 months to implement whatever enhancement program we choose before the public becomes aware of the threat." Director Mitchell highlighted several classified documents on his screen. "We've identified key military personnel and government officials who would be ideal candidates for the first enhancement trials. We can begin with voluntary subjects from within the defense establishment." Einstein began drawing frantically when he heard this plan, creating symbols that showed the dangers of limiting enhancement to government and military personnel. The creature's drawings indicated that this approach would create an enhanced ruling class that might not represent the interests of unenhanced humans. "He's warning us about creating a 2-tier society," Amanda interpreted, her latest biological analysis supporting Einstein's concerns. "Enhanced humans would have significant advantages over normal humans in every area of life. The social implications could be as devastating as the invasion itself." Marine Captain Tony Rodriguez had been observing the discussions from the back of the room. The veteran soldier had volunteered for the project after learning about the invasion threat. His military experience gave him a unique perspective on both the tactical requirements and the human costs of their decisions. "I've seen what happens when you force soldiers to use experimental technology," Rodriguez said, stepping forward. "Sometimes it works, but more often it creates problems that are worse than the original threat. If this enhancement process is as powerful as you say, we need to be very careful about how we implement it." Marcus had been studying Einstein's drawings about the volunteer who would need to travel to the future to gather more information. The creature had made it clear that someone would need to make the journey to witness the invasion firsthand and bring back detailed intelligence about enemy tactics and capabilities. "Einstein has shown us that we need more information about the invasion itself," Marcus said, pointing to the relevant drawings. "The mathematical calculations indicate that we can modify the time machine to send someone 80 months into the future to observe the initial attack." General Stone immediately saw the tactical value of this proposal. A reconnaissance mission to the future could provide us with detailed enemy capabilities and battle plans. We could learn exactly how the invasion unfolds and prepare specific countermeasures. Einstein nodded enthusiastically when he heard this plan, drawing new symbols that showed how the future mission would work. The creature indicated that the time traveler will be caught up in the enhancement process that occurred during the invasion, returning with first-hand knowledge of both the enemy and the human response. The volunteer would undergo transformation. During the mission, Ryan understood, studying the new drawings, they would return enhanced, providing us with a living example of what the process can achieve. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward again. "I volunteer for the mission," he said without hesitation. "My military training gives me the best chance of surviving what I encounter in the future, and I understand the intelligence requirements." Marcus looked at the determined soldier, seeing the same courage that had driven Einstein to accept his role as messenger from the future. The mission would be extremely dangerous. You might not survive the transformation process, and even if you do, you might return changed beyond recognition. Rodriguez nodded grimly. "I've accepted worse risks for less important missions. If this intelligence can help save humanity, then the risk is worth it." Einstein began drawing detailed technical specifications for modifying the time machine to handle the longer displacement. The creature's drawing showed exactly how to adjust the quantum field generators and temporal displacement matrix to achieve the 18-month jump with a living human subject. The modifications will take approximately 6 weeks to complete, Lisa calculated. Studying the technical diagrams, we'll need to completely recalibrate the containment field and upgrade the power systems to handle the increased energy. Requirements, Director. Mitchell was already making plans for the mission. Captain Rodriguez will receive accelerated training in intelligence gathering and scientific observation. We need him to return with actionable information about enemy capabilities, human defensive strategies, and the effectiveness of various enhancement protocols. Einstein drew additional symbols showing the importance of timing for the mission. The creature indicated that the volunteer needed to arrive at a specific point during the invasion when the enhancement process was being implemented, but before the situation became completely chaotic. The timing window is critical, Ryan interpreted. If Rodriguez arrives too early, he won't witness the invasion. If he arrives too late, the enhancement facilities might already be destroyed. Marcus watched as Einstein continued to add details to his drawings, showing the volunteer's journey through the future timeline. The creature's symbols indicated that Rodriguez would experience multiple stages of the invasion, witnessing both humanity's initial failures and eventual adaptation to the crisis. The mission will provide us with a complete picture of how the invasion unfolds. Amanda realized Rodriguez will see what works and what doesn't, allowing us to avoid the mistakes that led to so many casualties in the original timeline. General Stone began outlining the mission parameters. Captain Rodriguez will observe enemy tactics, human resistance strategies, and the enhancement process itself. His primary objective is to return with information that will allow us to mount a more effective defense. Einstein looked up at Rodriguez with his multifaceted eyes, and the creature made his complex tonal sounds. This time, the pattern seemed to carry approval and respect for the soldier's willingness to undertake such a dangerous mission. "He's telling you that you're making the right choice," Marcus translated. Einstein went through his own transformation alone, but now he won't be the only messenger from the future. Rodriguez approached Einstein's enclosure and knelt down to look at the transformed creature. "I understand the risks, and I accept them. Humanity needs this information, and I'm the best person to get it." The preparations for the mission began immediately, with Lisa and Ryan working to modify the time machine, while Amanda studied the biological aspects of the enhancement process that Rodriguez would undergo. Einstein continued to provide technical guidance, his drawings becoming more detailed as the departure date approached. Marcus realized that they were about to cross another threshold in their understanding of humanity's future. Rodriguez would return with knowledge that would shape every decision they made about the enhancement program and the defense of Earth. Question was whether that knowledge would be enough to change the outcome of the coming invasion. The black helicopters arrived at dawn, their rotors cutting through the morning air with mechanical precision. Jake had been monitoring the facility's security feeds all night, but even his military training hadn't prepared him for the speed of the government response. Within 6 hours of Einstein's return, every major intelligence agency in the country seemed to know about their discovery. General Patricia Stone stepped out of the lead helicopter, her gray uniform crisp despite the early hour. She was followed by a team of military scientists and security personnel who moved with the efficiency of people accustomed to dealing with classified situations. Behind them came NSA Director Carl Mitchell, a thin man with calculating eyes who seemed to take in every detail of the facility with a single glance. Marcus met them at the entrance to the laboratory, his exhaustion evident after 3 days of continuous work analyzing Einstein's drawings. Lisa and Ryan flanked him, while Amanda remained inside with the transformed creature. Jake stood at attention near the security desk, his loyalties clearly divided between his team and his government handlers. Dr. Hayes, General Stone said without preamble, "We understand you've made a breakthrough in temporal mechanics. We need to see everything you've discovered, and we need to see it now." Marcus led the group into the main laboratory, where Einstein's container sat surrounded by computers displaying the decoded mathematical formulas. The creature looked up at the newcomers with his multifaceted eyes, showing no fear despite the sudden invasion of his space. If anything, Einstein seemed to recognize the uniforms and understand what their presence meant. "This is what returned from our time displacement experiment," Marcus explained, gesturing toward the container. "The mouse we sent forward was transformed by something in the future timeline. He's been trying to communicate information about an alien invasion that will occur in 18 months. General Stone studied the creature with professional interest while Director Mitchell examined the mathematical formulas covering the walls. Both officials had been briefed on the situation, but seeing the evidence firsthand was clearly more disturbing than they had expected. "These biological modifications are beyond anything in our current scientific understanding," Amanda reported, joining the group with her latest analysis results. "The creature's DNA has been enhanced with synthetic compounds that don't exist in nature. Someone in the future has developed technology that can rewrite the genetic code of living organisms." Director Mitchell pointed to the star charts Einstein had drawn. "These stellar positions won't occur for thousands of years, but the invasion timeline shows it beginning in the immediate future." "How do you explain that discrepancy?" Ryan stepped forward with his computer analysis. "The time displacement didn't just send Einstein forward 24 hours. The temporal field interacted with something else, creating a connection to multiple points in the future timeline. He experienced both the near-future invasion and the distant future consequences." Einstein began drawing again, this time creating new symbols that seemed directed at the military officials. The pattern showed Earth's deep space monitoring stations, detecting the approaching alien fleet. The creature drew precise orbital mechanics that indicated exactly when and where the invaders would first be spotted. "He's showing us our early warning systems," Lisa translated, comparing the drawings to known satellite positions. "According to these calculations, our deep space arrays will detect the invasion fleet in approximately 17 months and 3 weeks. General Stone leaned closer to examining technical diagrams. "These ship designs don't match any known technology. The propulsion systems appear to be based on principles we don't understand, and the weapons seem to convert matter directly into energy." Einstein noticed the general's interest in the weapon designs and began drawing more detailed schematics. The new images showed how the alien weapons worked, but they also showed human-made weapons that could fight back. The creature was providing blueprints for both sides of the coming conflict. "The enhanced humans in the future develop countermeasures," Amanda observed, studying the biological weapon designs. "These aren't traditional manufactured weapons. They're grown from living tissue that's been modified to serve specific combat functions." Director Mitchell had been examining the transformation process diagrams that Einstein had created. "This enhancement technology could revolutionize human capabilities. Enhanced strength, improved intelligence, extended lifespan. The military applications alone would be worth billions." Marcus felt a chill at the director's words. The enhancement process isn't optional in the future timeline. It's forced upon humanity as a survival mechanism. Those who refuse the transformation and left defenseless against the invaders, Einstein began drawing frantically when he heard the word forced. The creature created new images showing two different scenarios. In one, the transformation was imposed on humanity by desperate government officials. In the other, people were given the choice to undergo the enhancement voluntarily. He's showing us that there are different ways to implement the technology. Ryan interpreted, the outcome depends on how we choose to use it. We can either force it on people or give them the option to decide for themselves. General Stone studied the two scenarios with tactical interest. A voluntary enhancement program would be slower and less efficient than mandatory transformation. In a crisis situation, we might not have time for individual choice. Einstein shook his head vigorously and began drawing new images. These showed the psychological differences between force and voluntary transformation. The enhanced humans who had chosen their modifications remained more stable and retained more of their original personality. Those who had been forced to change became unstable and sometimes turned against their own species. The creature is warning us about the psychological consequences. Amanda realized forced transformation creates enhanced humans who are mentally unstable. They might have the physical capabilities to fight the invaders, but they lose their humanity in the process. Director Mitchell was already calculating the strategic implications. We need to start developing the enhancement technology immediately. If we have 18 months to prepare, we can create a voluntary program that produces stable enhanced humans. Marcus looked at Einstein, who was watching the discussion with obvious concern. The creature had lived through the future timeline and understood the full consequences of each choice. His multifaceted eyes seemed to be pleading with the humans to learn from the mistakes that hadn't been made yet. We need to consider what we're really talking about, Marcus said carefully. This isn't just about developing new technology. We're discussing the fundamental transformation of human nature. Once we cross that line, there's no going back. Einstein began drawing again, but this time his patterns were different. The symbols showed the invasion not as a single event, but as part of a larger pattern. The dark ships had attacked other worlds before Earth, and they would continue their campaign of consumption until they encountered effective resistance. The invaders aren't just targeting Earth, Lisa realized. Studying the new drawings, they're part of a galactic harvesting operation. Planets that successfully resist the invasion become beacons of hope for other worlds. The creature nodded and drew images of enhanced humans traveling to other planets to help them prepare for the invasion. The enhanced humans had become protectors of biological life throughout the galaxy, using their transformation to fight against the forces of consumption and destruction. The enhancement isn't just about survival, Ryan understood. It's about evolution. Humanity has the potential to become something greater than we are now, but only if we choose our path carefully. General Stone and Director Mitchell exchanged glances, clearly thinking about the political and military implications of everything. They had learned the transformation technology could give humanity the power to defend itself, but it would also fundamentally change what it meant to be human. Einstein drew one final image that showed the current moment in the laboratory. The creature depicted the choice that now faced humanity, with different paths leading to different futures. Some paths led to extinction, others to forced transformation, and a few led to voluntary evolution that preserved the best of human nature while gaining the power to protect life itself. The decision we make in the next few days will determine which future becomes reality, Marcus said. Understanding the full weight of their responsibility, we're not just choosing how to defend Earth, we're choosing what humanity will become. The transformed mouse curled up in his container, exhausted from his efforts to guide the humans toward the right choice. The fate of not just Earth, but potentially all biological life in the galaxy now rested on the decisions made by the people. In this underground laboratory, the transformed Einstein had been drawing continuously for 3 hours. The glass walls of his container were now covered with intricate patterns that made Marcus's head spin when he tried to follow them. Lisa had photographed every symbol and equation, creating a digital record of what appeared to be the most advanced mathematical communication anyone had ever seen. Amanda worked at her microscope, analyzing tissue samples that the creature had willingly provided by scratching small amounts of his new scaled skin onto glass slides. Her findings were becoming more disturbing with each test. The synthetic compounds in Einstein's DNA were not random mutations, but deliberate modifications that followed a precise biological blueprint. The enhancement pattern is too perfect to be natural, Amanda announced, looking up from her microscope with tired eyes. Someone engineered these changes using technology that's decades ahead of anything we currently possess. The modifications are designed to increase brain capacity, enhance physical coordination, and extend lifespan significantly. Ryan had been working to decode the mathematical patterns that Einstein continued to create. His computer screen showed translation programs running complex algorithms to find meaning in the creature's drawings. Slowly, a picture was beginning to emerge from the chaos of symbols and equations. "I think I'm starting to understand what he's trying to tell us," Ryan said, his voice filled with excitement and growing concern. "These aren't just random mathematical formulas. They're star charts, but not of our current galaxy. The patterns show stellar positions that won't occur for thousands of years in the future." Marcus studied the latest drawings that Einstein had created. The creature had moved from mathematical equations to what looked like technical diagrams. The drawings showed machines that seemed to be weapons, but weapons unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The designs were sleek and organic, as if they had been grown rather than built. Einstein noticed Marcus examining his latest work and became visibly agitated. The creature began drawing faster, creating new symbols that pulsed with urgency. The patterns showed what appeared to be spaceships, but they were dark and angular, with designs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "He's showing us something about space travel," Lisa observed, comparing the latest drawings to the star charts Einstein had created earlier. "But these ships don't look like anything humans would build. The technology is completely alien." The creature suddenly stopped drawing and looked directly at Marcus with his multifaceted eyes. For the first time since his return, Einstein opened his mouth and made a sound. It wasn't the squeaking noise a normal mouse would make, but a complex series of tones that seemed to carry meaning beyond simple communication. Amanda quickly recorded the sounds on her equipment. "The vocal patterns are incredibly sophisticated," she said after analyzing the audio. "The tonal variations suggest a form of language that uses pitch and harmony to convey complex information." "He's not just making noise, he's trying to speak." Marcus leaned closer to the container, and Einstein began making the tonal sounds again. This time, the patterns were different, more urgent. The creature gestured toward his drawings with one of his delicate new hands, pointing specifically at the images of the dark spaceships. "He's trying to warn us about something," Marcus realized. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The star charts show the future. The enhanced biology shows what happens to living creatures, and these ship designs show who or what is responsible. Einstein began drawing again, but this time his movements were frantic. The patterns he created showed Earth, recognizable by its continents and oceans. Around the planet, he drew the same dark ships he had shown before, but now they were positioned in attack formations. The creature's hands shook as he drew explosion symbols across the surface of the planet. "Invasion," Lisa whispered, understanding flooding her face. "He's showing us an invasion of Earth by these alien ships." The creature nodded vigorously when he heard the word invasion, his multifaceted eyes reflecting relief that they finally understood. Einstein began drawing a timeline, showing the progression of events that would lead to the attack. The symbols indicated that the invasion would begin in the near future, not the distant centuries that Marcus had assumed. Ryan worked frantically to decode the timeline symbols. "According to these calculations, the invasion begins in approximately 18 months from now," he announced, his voice filled with horror. The mathematical progression is clear. We have less than 2 years before Earth is attacked. Einstein created new drawings showing the invasion in more detail. The dark ships didn't just attack Earth cities. They seemed to be harvesting something from the planet itself. The creature drew symbols that suggested the aliens were collecting biological matter, converting living things into some form of energy or fuel. They're not just invading, Amanda said, studying the latest drawings. They're consuming. These aliens feed on biological matter, and they're coming to harvest Earth's entire biosphere. The creature began drawing human figures, but these humans looked different from normal people. They had been enhanced in the same way that Einstein had been transformed, with improved physical capabilities and expanded mental capacity. The enhanced humans were fighting back against the dark ships, using weapons that seemed to be grown from biological matter rather than manufactured. The enhancement isn't random, Marcus realized. The full scope of the situation becoming clear, it's a survival mechanism. In the future timeline, humans were forced to evolve beyond their natural limitations in order to fight these invaders. Einstein nodded again and began drawing more detailed images of the enhanced humans. They were no longer entirely human in appearance, but they retained enough of their original nature to be recognizable. The creature showed them using advanced technology that seemed to be part organic and part mechanical. But at what cost? Lisa asked, studying the drawings of the transformed humans. If this is what survival looks like, are we still really human anymore? The creature heard her question and began drawing frantically. The new images showed two different groups of enhanced humans. One group had embraced the transformation completely, becoming something that barely resembled their original species. The other group had found a way to maintain more of their human characteristics while still gaining the abilities needed to fight the invaders. There's a choice, Ryan interpreted the drawings. The enhancement process can be controlled to preserve more of human nature, but it requires knowledge and preparation that we don't currently have. Einstein began drawing diagrams that showed the transformation process in scientific detail. The symbols indicated that the biological enhancement required specific genetic markers and carefully timed exposure to the synthetic compounds. Without proper preparation, the transformation would be random and potentially dangerous. He's showing us how to do it right, Amanda realized, her xenobiology background helping her understand the biological diagrams. The creature isn't just warning us about the invasion. He's giving us the tools to prepare for it. Marcus watched as Einstein continued his desperate attempt to communicate everything he had learned in the future timeline. The creature drew images of underground facilities where humans had hidden during the early stages of the invasion. The drawings showed research laboratories where the enhancement process had been developed and refined. We need to start preparing now, Marcus said, the full weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. If Einstein is right, we have 18 months to figure out how to enhance human biology enough to fight an alien invasion. Einstein looked up at Marcus and made his complex tonal sounds again. This time, the pattern seemed to carry approval and hope. The creature had successfully communicated the most important information from his journey through time. And now it was up to Marcus and his team to decide what to do with that knowledge. Transformed Mouse continued drawing, but now his patterns showed something new. The symbols indicated that the time travel experiment had created a connection between the present and the future timeline. Einstein had not just observed the invasion, he had been caught up in humanity's response to it. He's not just a witness, Lisa realized, studying the latest drawings. He's a messenger. Someone in the future sent him back to warn us and give us the tools we need to survive. The creature nodded one final time and then curled up in the center of his container, exhausted from his efforts to communicate. Marcus looked at the walls covered with alien mathematics and biological diagrams, knowing that everything they had learned would change the course of human history. The question now was whether they would have enough time to prepare for what was coming. 24 hours passed like a lifetime for Marcus and his team. None of them had slept properly, taking turns watching the machine and checking their instruments every few minutes. The laboratory felt different somehow, as if the air itself held the weight of anticipation. Coffee cups and empty food containers littered the workstations, evidence of a long night spent waiting for history to unfold. Lisa had run diagnostics on every system at least 6 times, finding nothing wrong, but unable to shake the feeling that something might go catastrophically wrong when Einstein returned. Ryan had spent the entire night reviewing his quantum calculations, searching for any error that might explain what was about to happen. Jake maintained his post at the security station, watching both the internal monitors and the feeds from the cameras positioned around the facility. Marcus stood in the same spot where he had been when Einstein disappeared, his eyes fixed on the empty platform in the center of the ring. His watch showed 3 minutes until the 24-hour mark. The machine had been powered up for the past hour, ready to reverse the temporal displacement and bring their test subject back to the present. All systems are ready for retrieval, Lisa announced, her voice hoarse from exhaustion and stress. Power levels are optimal, and the containment field is stable. The machine is in perfect condition to complete the displacement cycle. Ryan's fingers moved across his control screens with practiced precision. Quantum field generators are online and synchronized, he reported. The temporal coordinates are locked onto Einstein's quantum signature. We should be able to pull him back to our timeline exactly. The blue glow began to appear inside the ring once again, but this time it felt different to Marcus. The light seemed somehow older, as if it carried knowledge from the future. The familiar shimmers started to form in the air, creating the same heat wave effect they had seen during the initial displacement. "Temporal window is opening," Ryan called out, his voice tight with concentration. "I'm detecting the target quantum signature. Einstein is still out there in the time stream, and he's alive." Marcus felt a surge of relief mixed with excitement. Their theory had been correct, and the mouse had survived his journey through time. The platform began to glow more brightly as the retrieval sequence engaged. Through the shimmer, Marcus could see a faint outline beginning to form on the empty platform. Contact established with displaced subject, Lisa announced, initiating retrieval sequence in 10 seconds. The outline on the platform became clearer, and Marcus could see that something was definitely materializing. The shape was about the right size to be Einstein's container, but there was something strange about the way the light bent around it. The blue glow intensified, and the humming from the machine grew louder. "Retrieval in progress," Ryan reported. His eyes locked on the readings flowing across his screens. "Quantum tunnel is stable. Temporal displacement is reversing according to our calculations." The light reached a blinding intensity, and then suddenly faded to reveal Einstein's container sitting on the platform exactly where it had been placed 24 hours earlier. Marcus rushed toward the machine, his heart pounding with anticipation. They had done it. They had actually sent something through time and brought it back. But as Marcus reached the platform, he stopped short. The container was there, but something was wrong. The glass walls that had been perfectly clear before now had a strange silver tint to them. Through the silver glass, he could see movement inside, but it didn't look like the familiar white mouse they had sent away. Lisa joined them at the platform, her tablet in hand to record whatever they found. "The container structure appears unchanged," she said, running her scanner over the glass walls. "But there's definitely something different about the contents." Marcus carefully lifted the container and carried it to the examination table they had prepared. Under the bright laboratory lights, the silver tint in the glass became even more pronounced. Whatever was inside the container was moving, but the movement seemed too fluid and coordinated to be a normal mouse. "The quantum signature matches Einstein's biological markers," Ryan called out from his station. "According to our instruments, this is definitely the same mouse we sent through time. But there are additional quantum patterns that weren't present." Before Marcus activated the container's opening mechanism, and the top slid back with a soft hiss, what he saw inside made him step back in shock. The creature that looked up at him was definitely not the same white mouse they had sent away. The animal was still mouse-sized, but its fur had been replaced by sleek silver scales that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. Its eyes were no longer small and black, but larger and multifaceted like an insect's eyes, glowing with an intelligence that seemed almost human. The creature's body was leaner and more graceful than before, with longer limbs that ended in delicate fingers instead of simple paws. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered, her scanner beeping frantically as it tried to analyze what it was seeing. The basic body structure is still mouse-like, but everything else has been completely transformed. The creature stood up on its hind legs with a fluid grace that no normal mouse could achieve. It looked directly at Marcus with those strange, multifaceted eyes, and he had the uncomfortable feeling that it was studying him just as intently as he was studying it. The creature's head tilted slightly, and Marcus could swear he saw recognition in its gaze. Dr. Amanda Clark arrived at the laboratory just as the team was beginning their examination of the transformed Einstein. Amanda was a xenobiologist who had been called in to consult on the project, though she had never expected to encounter anything quite like this. Her expertise in studying alien life forms had seemed like overkill for a simple time travel experiment. But now Marcus was grateful for her presence. "The cellular structure has been completely rewritten," Amanda announced after taking her first samples. "The DNA is still recognizably mouse DNA, but it's been enhanced with synthetic compounds that don't exist anywhere in nature. At least, not in our current timeline." The transformed Einstein moved to the edge of the container and began tracing patterns on the glass with one of its new finger-like appendages. The patterns were complex geometric shapes that seemed to follow some kind of mathematical logic. Lisa held up her tablet to record the drawings, and Ryan immediately began analyzing them. "These aren't random scratches," Ryan said, his voice filled with excitement. "The patterns follow precise mathematical relationships. It's like he's trying to communicate using advanced mathematics." Marcus watched in fascination as the creature continued its drawings. The patterns were becoming more complex, incorporating symbols that looked almost like star charts or navigational diagrams. The creature would pause occasionally to look at Marcus, as if checking to see if he understood what it was trying to communicate. "The synthetic compounds in his DNA are unlike anything I've ever seen," Amanda continued her analysis. "They appear to be designed to enhance neural capacity and physical coordination. Someone or something in the future has created a formula for biological enhancement that's far beyond our current scientific understanding." The creature finished its current drawing and moved to a different section of the glass. This time, the patterns it created were clearly recognizable as mathematical equations. Not simple arithmetic, but complex formulas that dealt with quantum mechanics and temporal physics. Lisa and Ryan exchanged glances, both recognizing elements of their own work in the creature's drawings. "He's showing us our own equations," Lisa said in amazement, "but he's also adding corrections and improvements that we never thought of. This mouse now understands our science better than we do." Marcus leaned closer to the container, and the creature looked up at him again. This time, there was something urgent in its multifaceted eyes. The creature began drawing faster, creating new patterns that seemed to pulse with importance. The drawing showed star maps, mathematical formulas, and what looked like technical diagrams for machines that Marcus didn't recognize. "He's trying to tell us something," Marcus said quietly. "Something important about what he experienced in the future. Something that we need to know." The creature suddenly stopped drawing and pressed both of its new hands against the glass, looking directly at Marcus with an expression that seemed almost desperate. In that moment, Marcus realized that their simple time travel experiment had become something much more significant and much more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Dr. Marcus Hayes stood in front of the machine that had consumed 15 years of his life. The device looked nothing like the popular movies showed time machines. Instead of a sleek capsule or spinning wheels, it resembled a massive metal ring standing upright in the center of the laboratory. Cables snaked across the floor like thick black veins, connecting the ring to computer terminals and power units that hummed with barely contained energy. The Aurora Research Institute had given him this underground facility in Colorado after His theoretical papers on temporal displacement caught the attention of some very important people. The concrete walls were lined with monitors showing readings that most people would find meaningless. Temperature gauges, electromagnetic field indicators, and quantum stability measurements flickered constantly as the machine prepared for its first real tests. Bennett checked her tablet for the 100th time that morning. As the project's lead engineer, she had built most of the mechanical components that made Marcus's theories possible. Her brown hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her blue overalls were stained with grease from the countless hours she had spent crawling through the machine's interior systems. She looked up from her readings and caught Marcus's eye. "All systems are showing green across the board," she said, her voice carrying the exhaustion of someone who had been working 8-hour days for months. "Power levels are stable. Containment field is holding steady, and the temporal displacement calculations have been verified 3 times. Ryan Torrey sat at the main control station, his fingers dancing across holographic displays that showed the quantum mechanics behind their experiment. As the team's quantum specialist, he understood the science better than anyone except Marcus himself. His dark eyes reflected the blue glow of the monitors as he made final adjustments to the displacement field parameters. "The quantum tunnel is forming correctly," Ryan reported without looking away from his screens. "We're seeing the expected particle behavior in the containment field. Everything matches the theoretical models we've been working with." Jake Sullivan stood near the security console, his military background evident in his straight posture and alert eyes. The former Navy SEAL had been assigned to the project by people who didn't want their names in any official reports. His job was to make sure that whatever happened in this lab stayed in this lab. He watched the other team members work while keeping one eye on the monitors that showed the facility's external security systems. The test subject sat in a small, transparent container near the machine's base. Einstein was a white laboratory mouse, chosen for this historic moment not because of any special qualities, but simply because he was available and expendable. The mouse seemed unaware that he was about to become the first living creature to travel through time. He cleaned his whiskers with typical mouse indifference to the momentous occasion. Marcus had spent the previous night staring at the ceiling of his quarters, unable to sleep. Today would prove whether his life's work was revolutionary science or elaborate fantasy. The mathematics were sound, the engineering was solid, and the quantum mechanics checked out perfectly. Yet the gulf between theory and reality had swallowed many brilliant scientists before him. "Beginning final systems check," Lisa announced. "Moving to a control panel covered with switches and indicators. Magnetic containment field is at optimal strength. Temporal displacement matrix is aligned. Power systems are showing full capacity with backup generators on standby." The machine began to emit a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The metal rings started to glow with a soft blue light that pulsed in rhythm with the quantum calculations running through the computers. The air inside the ring began to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer pavement. Ryan's screen showed complex wave patterns as the space-time fabric began to bend according to Marcus's equations. "Quantum field density is reaching critical threshold," he called out, his voice tight with concentration. "Temporal displacement window is forming." Marcus picked up Einstein's container and approached the machine. The mouse looked up at him with small black eyes that seemed to hold a spark of curiosity. For a moment, Marcus felt a pang of guilt about what he was about to do. Then he remembered that this small creature was about to make history. "Final safety check complete," Jake announced from his station. "All personnel are clear of the displacement field. External sensors show no interference from outside sources." The blue glow inside the ring intensified, and the humming grew louder. The shimmer in the air became more pronounced, creating a visual distortion that made it difficult to see the far wall of the laboratory. Marcus could feel the energy building in the room, making the hair on his arm stand up. "Initiating temporal displacement sequence," Lisa said, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "Displacement target is 24 hours forward from current time stamp." Marcus placed Einstein's container on the platform that would slide into the ring. The mouse pressed against the transparent walls of his container, perhaps sensing that something unusual was about to happen. The platform began to move slowly toward the center of the glowing ring. "Quantum tunnel is stable," Ryan reported. His voice barely audible over the increasing noise from the machine. "Temporal coordinates are locked in. Field strength is at maximum sustainable levels." The container reached the center of the ring and Einstein became visible only as a vague outline through the shimmering distortion. The mouse seemed to glow with the same blue light that filled the space around him. Marcus held his breath as Lisa's finger moved toward the final activation switch. "Temporal displacement in 3 seconds," Lisa announced. 2 seconds. 1 second. Activation. The laboratory filled with brilliant blue light as the machine released all it stored. Energy in a single focused burst. The ring crackled with electricity, and the concrete floor vibrated beneath their feet. The humming became a roar that seemed to shake the very air around them. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, everything stopped. The ring went dark, the humming ceased, and the shimmer in the air disappeared. The platform sat empty in the center of the ring, with no sign that Einstein had ever existed. Marcus stared at the empty platform, his heart pounding. According to his calculations, the mouse should reappear in exactly 24 hours. The machine had worked perfectly, but now came the hardest part of any scientific experiment, waiting for the results. Lisa checked her instruments with shaking hands. "All systems nominal," she reported. "Power consumption matched theoretical predictions." "Exactly. No damage to any components." The machine performed flawlessly. Ryan was already analyzing the data from the displacement event. "Quantum signatures show successful temporal tunnel formation," he said, excitement creeping into his voice. "The displacement field achieved the exact parameters we calculated. If the theory is correct, Einstein should return tomorrow at precisely..." This time, Jake remained at his security station, but Marcus could see the amazement in the former soldier's eyes. They had just accomplished something that most people would consider impossible. They had bent the laws of physics to their will and sent a living creature through time. The next 24 hours would determine whether they had made scientific history or created the most expensive way to make a mouse disappear. Marcus looked at his watch and began the longest day of his life, counting down the hours until they would learn if time travel was real or just another broken dream in a laboratory. Full of expensive equipment, the machine sat silent in the center of the room, but Marcus could almost feel it waiting, as if it too was curious about what tomorrow would bring.